Dive in today and talk about optimizing government construction projects with the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Moving along to today's agenda, we're going to talk about a few things. As Gladys mentioned, the centralized project management, collaboration, data, scalability, and compliance. But we'll start off, I'll give you a short background about myself. Some of the industry challenges, Autodesk Construction Cloud overview. So I want to, maybe for some who have not been introduced yet, give a fairly high level overview of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And we're going to look at it from the umbrella perspective of everything that we have available to us. And I'll touch on that here in a moment. Lastly, before we get to kind of a conversation, or at least a short update on FedRAMP, want to talk to a little bit the digital twin concept, and if you're not familiar with that, also might be a little bit of an insight there, and really the concept of digital twin, and really what are we doing with what is all this work, and what is all of this digitization and digital transformation, where is it headed? And that's what we want to talk about there. And lastly, at the end, as time permits, we'll do some Q&A. Again, my name is Alan De Luce. I work on our engagement team. Essentially, we're just kind of pre-sales folks, solutions oriented people, taking industry experience and applying them to the solutions that we represent. And today really focusing on Autodesk, but with the broader portfolio of IMAGINIT, as you engage with us, there might be discussions on some of our other solutions, the Leica products, the potentially for facilities management, the Aptura Archibus platform, amongst many others, but ultimately want to today, of course, focus on the Autodesk side. And so I've been in the industry roughly 20 years, being on various segments of the industry, in design, in consulting, and in BIM and VDC management in construction. And my entire career, really, I've been just focused on technology, and certainly for the last, say, 12, 15 years, just really dive into everything generally in construction and design technology. I do want to mention that today's webinar, I am making some opinionated statements, and these are my takes, but really it's built on just conversations and work that we do with the industry, and we touch on all aspects of the industry. We touch on the design side, the construction side, manufacturers, but really a lot of ownership discussion, and I think that's really going to be applicable certainly for many of you today. But we touch on all aspects, and we have those conversations on any given day, and certainly what I will deliver today is just my take on the current state. And I really look forward to, again, anything we can do to follow up with this after this and answer questions that may come up. So at a high level, we'll start with some of the industry challenges. These are general challenges, and they're things that we deal with every day. And we'll essentially look to, over the next 45 minutes or so, try to understand how can we mitigate those challenges. So we can all understand bad data and bad information. No information is better than bad information, or any information at all. So these are some of the things that cause so much of a headache in project delivery generally, and that's at all phases. It's not as though it's just in construction, but it can really grow and be much more drastic in the construction phase because of the disconnect that we all deal with of the design side and all the data that is collected and gathered and built in that process, and then handed over to the next phase, being in construction, and really where we can have some disconnects and have some roadblocks to really getting the right information in the right people's hands at the right time. And you can imagine it yourself, and you can understand that globally this is a huge cost, and this plays a major role in some of the issues beyond just our daily lives, of course. The waste that is created in rework and all of the things that occur, and again, a lot of that is occurring because we don't have one place to go find our information, and we go and we have these segmented and fragmented workflows, disconnected information. And as owners, and generally I mean, these things apply obviously to owners because oftentimes they don't have the ability to have their hands around their project teams, and these projects generally we don't know what everyone else is doing. So that's where standardization can play a role, things like that. But just these owner challenges are felt, I'm sure, amongst all of yourselves. And by all means, if there's any comments and questions or about challenges that you experience, please do add those into the comments or in the chat, and we can try to address those. But that disconnected information, that's really where what we're going to talk about today can play a role. Disconnected information, fragmented, so that siloed situation where I'm doing, I might do 5 tasks in 5 places on any given day, and that information just really can't collect and be and talk to each other, and in those unfortunate siloed systems. And again, that's where we want to play a role to mitigate those issues. These business challenges, essentially, it's just saying the same thing in different ways, but to get into kind of applying to the Autodesk Construction Cloud, which is going to be our focus today. We've all seen the situation over here on the right. If you get to that project handover phase and things just have to get dumped on the desk, and maybe it's even down in the basement, you don't get to actually utilize that data. That's the important thing. Even if we have good data, are we utilizing it downstream? And some of the things that really matter about the benefits of the platform that we're going to talk about is a couple things. Permissions are important, and having the right information at the right time, versioning, things like that. So we reduce the levels or the amount of miscommunication and just really generally communication breakdown. So we want to focus on again, a few of these topics that we wanted to touch on. The key points: the centralized document management, project management, and what is the outcome of having this single source of truth, one place to go and find things. I don't have to go searching, and what is the impact of having that? Well, again, this single source of truth, it's somewhat of a cliche, we hear it all the time, statement, but it's the single source of truth. Having that at your disposal, going to one location, can be very powerful to, again, get everybody on the same page. Application integrations and access both on desktop, let alone mobile. That's where we really are connecting ourselves from our desks to getting out into the field and being able to distribute that data, whether it be, between our internal teams, and then being able to pull in third parties and be collaborative across the project team, internally with stakeholders, and again, third parties. And some of the tools in here give us they afford us the ability to improve our accountability process. When things go south, how can we go back and deal with the breadcrumbs of the trail to understand this person did this at this time? Where did the document go? Is it historical? Can I go back and find the history of that document, go and determine what has changed over time? That's where we can, with these platforms, really help ourselves to improve accountability in our daily lives. So I'll start here at a high level on the Autodesk Construction Cloud and give you an overview. And later on, we will touch on, again, perhaps where are you going to, which tools are you going to be able to leverage and kind of briefly touching on when that's going to be capable. But ultimately, again, this is the overarching view of everything that's available to us. And at some point, we will be able to leverage these tools, and it's good to understand them now so that we can, when we can hit the ground running whenever we do get access to them. So we'll focus on, for the enhanced collaboration context of today's discussion, the BIM Collaborate Pro side, as well as the Docs side. I'll briefly touch on the Autodesk Build just to give an illustration of what are some of the additional capabilities when we extend these really foundational tools, certainly Docs and Collaborate. But at a high level here, these are all the tools, and they apply to the different phases. You can understand that if we're talking about BIM Collaborate Pro, we've got the design side, we've got our Revit users, CAD users, Civil 3D, Plant 3D, what have you. And these are all able to be collaborated, and a distributed workforce can work on these. And there's some real enhancements to desktop workflows that just don't afford us a lot of ability to distribute that work. Certainly with on the Revit side, the Revit cloud-based work sharing, super important. You can see that there's two legs there of the BIM Collaborate platform. With Pro, you get design collaboration and model coordination. We'll talk about the model coordination and how that can help us, that can enhance communication in a given design project, whether it be in the design phase or even downstream when we're collaborating with our construction groups and in the kind of the trade coordination phase. So that's that design side. But do pay attention that the docs piece is riding underneath there the whole time. It's that single source of truth, that single data set that goes through the entire project lifecycle. In the middle here, not highlighted, we have Assemble, Takeoff, ProEst, Building Connected, and the pipe tools. These are our pre-construction tools. And another reason to understand the rest of this platform is that just to get an idea of what are our project teams collaborating with, what are some of the tools that they're using. And these are out there and they're live and they're wild in the environment right now. Our contractors are using tools like Takeoff and ProEst to create estimates. They're using Building Connected to go and identify good project team contractors and subcontractors and doing pre-qualification workflows in TradeTap, things like that. So so that pre-con phase is, these tools are out there being used by your collaborators. And again, that information that's used in these different workflows and tasks, again, it's riding on Autodesk Docs, and it can be pushed downstream into later phases, like we would execute project management for construction, certainly in the Autodesk Build platform. And so that's kind of the star of the show, and I'll get into those here in a moment. But I do want to I hope you've taken away from this just an understanding of, BIM Collaborate is on the BIM and design side. The middle products there, those are in the pre-construction phase, and then Autodesk Build, and of course with some of the pipe tools, are that project management, construction management phase, and then some of the really powerful handover tools to get a good handover to that building owner for going into operations and maintenance. All right, I want to dive a little bit deeper here into the Docs platform. And this is where this is what to take away from this. This is that single source of truth. And I show this this slide blown up with all these just kind of showing them things a little bit larger in the text to illustrate, a little bit broader illustration of the workflows that are capable. So is this just a storage device? Is this just a cloud-based storage that I can go similar to what you may be used to? You might have it for your personal use, Google Drive or OneDrive, things like that. Totally understanding that the cloud is a very, just hearing the word cloud and in our work life in the government space can be a sticky situation. But we're all familiar with these types of platforms, the cloud-based platforms. So that's where Docs comes into play. And thankfully, Docs we'll touch again on that FedRAMP discussion and the certification process. Docs is an aspect of that within that certification. So to understand this and how it plays a role, again, beyond storage, you can see there in that window in blue, you can see the various tools there. It's not just a a storage device. It is a review tool. So I can go and push documents through approval processes. I can go and send out a transmittal to another project team member. I can create issues. I can do reporting on all of these things in a way that it's going to enhance my understanding of the project activities. And I can go and have a report land on my inbox every Monday morning and see the health of the project. So that's part of that data aspect of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And something that we, certainly may be useful to us moving forward as we begin to introduce these cloud-based Autodesk workflows and platforms. The Bridge tool. Bridge allows us to go and synchronize up with our both internal projects. If I'm literally just collaborating and pushing information from one internal project to another. But it also is very powerful because it lets us do that same synchronized push with our external hubs, so third-party folks, if you need to do that. Say that's the design team, we want to schedule a share of documents, let alone construction. That Bridge tool is really handy for that. But again, as you can see on the workflows that are capable, document management, this is where we're going to be able to store information and keep track of it. So the history, the versions, we always know that we're always looking at the current version. That's one of the powerful tools in the platform. When you are, for instance, on the mobile side, when you go and open up a document, it's going to show you the latest and greatest document. You can go back and look at that 5 versions ago, but you're going to know it flashes that's, hey, you're not in the current version of that document. So that's an incredibly important piece. On top of of course, the versioning markup capabilities. So as we go through the life cycle of a review process, I want to be able to mark it up. I'm going to hand this off to, say the engineer, the architect, maybe it needs to go out to a contractor, the field, something like that. I can go through a process to mark up and perform a review where I can workflow it. I can share it with a technician or a designer, and then they push it back to me, or they actually execute a review workflow. Lots of opportunity here to take it beyond that storage, just that storage platform. And one of the neat things is that the various types of documents that we can store here and work on and collaborate with. There's something like 80 or might even be beyond 100 now, but just different file types. So I can review CAD files, BIM models, Navisworks, 3D CAD, et cetera, IFCs. All these different formats are viewable and again, actionable really in this environment. Couple other things that are handy. There's a Microsoft 365 integration, and I can be working in the cloud in Word documents here stored in Docs and be collaborative with somebody, that's maybe 2 states over or whatever the case may be. So that's where we're extending that. And, to touch on the scalability, what's great about this platform is that I can execute a project and I can bring in as many team members as I like. It is license-based, but it also can be reworked and set up in different ways so that we can have as many team members in projects as we like. We can have enterprise, we call it licensure, that lets us invite in all of our project collaborators and things like that. There's ways to set this up so that we can, again, bring everyone under the same roof, working on that single source of truth. And so that's a lot about Docs. I'll briefly touch on the next step. So we saw that in that original, the umbrella slide of all the different platforms and modules within the Autodesk Construction Cloud. This is just the build piece blown up. And so we saw docs a second ago. Build is that next step, and you saw that we had reviews, transmittals, issues, and a few different tools for sure in docs. But you can see here in build, this is that construction project management platform, and you can see all the tools there on the right that extend your functionality, taking photos in the field, developing an RFI process or a submittal process that gets that steps through the right personas to go and sign off on things at the right time, reviewing and so on. Even a correspondence tool that lets us essentially connect all of our project-related email into the platform. And cost management, how often would you in a government role need to be executing some of these tasks? That's typically managed and controlled by a CM or a GC, but ultimately we get insight into it as the owner of the data. We talk about data ownership later, but as the owner of data, and if I in my agency, I own this project on my hub, and everyone's coming into my hub and my single source of truth, they're going to be actionable on my data. You don't ever have to go and say, hey, here at handover, when they give us the keys to open the door and move in, you're not trying to go and hunt around for that data set that was the previous 6 months, year, however long the design and construction phase went. You've got that data right there in your hub and ready to move into the building and operate. Other things that are really valuable about the platform, compliance, as we talked about, that compliance, I know this is perhaps a different context, but ensuring quality and safety. These are incredibly valuable aspects of our work to ensure quality. We want to make sure that we're doing things the right way. The installation went correct. It was signed off on. It was punch listed and approved, let alone the safety piece. We want to make sure everybody gets home at the end of the day. So the tools that are capable in here, the processes and workflows to really institute these workflows are incredibly powerful, and they're very configurable and customizable to your needs. So lots of really good stuff there. Are we there yet with build? No, but we'll get to that later. But we want you to just see the bigger picture and understand that these are opportunities for you, at least just to have eyes on, so that when things do happen, you'll be able to hit the ground running. So about the enhanced collaboration, we've talked about it, obviously, in regard to the single source of truth and storage. Well, there are tools in the ACC that give us that additional, or that give us some additional enhanced collaboration opportunities in the design phase. And I will say design phase, because that is oftentimes where this lives. But as the platform develops and enhances and becomes more like some of its brethren, this will begin to be utilized on the model coordination side in that context, downstream in VDC and trade coordination and construction side. So with BIM Collaborate Pro, as I mentioned earlier, you have two legs there, and BIM Collaborate Pro is one of the is in the moderate in process and something that you will be able to leverage when that process goes live, or when the platform can go live for government. So BIM and VDC, BIM, oftentimes think of that as the design phase, VDC as the construction phase. But these two tools in collaboration with each other, design collaboration and model coordination, they give us the best chance to have it as easy of a process, easy button of a process for the coordination aspect, easy button for collaboration as well. So I can be in my office and I can be collaborating, of course, with my internal group, but I can also have that model stored in the Autodesk Construction Cloud in Docs Docs as the storage, and we can be working with those third-party consultants, the designers, the contractors, whoever. We can be all doing our own thing, and what's great is that it's as though we are all in the same office and can be in, think of it as that context, but we are indeed on the cloud. And one of the really cool things about the model coordination piece that I think is only going to grow, you can think of, if you're familiar with what is Navisworks by Autodesk, it's a kind of a version of Navisworks, a lightweight version, but they are ever adding to it and growing and adding new functionality that kind of is bringing it closer and closer these days to parity with Navisworks and some of the other platforms in the industry. All right, that's a little bit about the enhanced collaboration. Of course, also the BIM Collaborate Pro side with the docs as well. That is the context of that enhanced collaboration functionality. Let's take a look at some data. And one of the benefits of this platform that is just, it's happening in the ether, to say, or for lack of better terms, this is going on as activity plays out on a given day. We're building a data set, and that data set can help us to make better decisions. It helps us it drives us toward a greater pool of information and a data set that allows us to say, with the various mechanisms that we will see, some of the dashboards and so on, we identify where there is introduced risk, whether that be safety, as we just talked about maybe a while ago, but creating issues and issue management, where an issue could be something design related, it could be something related to procurement or some of the equipment that is on site, or it can be, really, they're very versatile. They can be used however you see fit. They can be design related issues or model coordination issues where you just, things are not coming together. That's all of these tools and issues that we will, I can, talk a little bit about issues for sure, but they're collecting this data set that is metadata and information that allows us to, again, be more proactive in mitigating the risk and concerns and issues about our projects. So in this regard, the data, some of the reporting capabilities and insights, there's actually an insights page that gives us, up here in the top right, you can see this dashboard. And there's a few different dashboards, a number of them, in fact. And there's my home dashboard, there's actually a risk dashboard, there's a design dashboard, etc. A few different ones. And they're obviously all focused on their aspect of a project. And you can see here on this home dashboard, I've got submittals. This is a build related dashboard for a build project. But similarly, we have the data collecting even with just the BIM Collaborate Pro tools. And again, we're collecting the issues, errors, and concerns about a project in order to be more proactive and mitigate those. And a couple other things, reporting. So these are dashboards up in the top right. That's literally where information is just landing for us to have a good, pie charts and things like that. But then there's reporting, and these reports can be, they can be emailed and scheduled to land in your inbox. So if you're a manager or you're trying to be, or a stakeholder, and you're trying to get ahead of what's coming at me this week, we can create templated reports, detailed. They will gather all of the information about whatever you're trying to collect. If it's design issues that are a week overdue, whatever it may be, we can create a report that's going to, again, land in our inbox. We can go and capture that on Monday morning, and then we know where we need to focus our time for that, at least certainly for the day, if not for the week. We need to go and deal with some of the concerns. And you can see some of the a collected group of these project issues, whether they be project related or just design related issues. Again, we get to configure them, customize them. There's a whole bunch of the stuff that's right out of the box that we can utilize, the different types of issues, for instance, but we can go and customize those and give them custom 3-letter tags. We can name them accordingly in order to suit our process and maybe some of the customized nature of our design work and project delivery. And I spoke about it earlier, and it can't be reiterated enough. What are some of the benefits of data ownership, and why should we, as depending on your agency or who you're affiliated with, why would we want to capture all of the project activity and own that data? Well, if you work in project delivery, which I assume most of you do, depending on, again, who you work for, an agency, and when and what part of the life cycle, you are eventually going to own that data. It's going to land in your inbox at some point, whether it's, like we saw the really messy desk earlier. If it's just maybe it's a bunch of rolls of paper, that's fairly old school. So I just remember dealing with that in the past. But now it's a thumb drive, or it's something that we can't really utilize until we go and quote unquote unpack it and actually bring it into our systems. Well, if you think, if you think about it in the process of begin with the end in mind, knowing that you're ultimately going to own the data and own the project and need to spend your time every single day dealing with it. Well, if you own it from the outset, you're not going to have to go and reinitiate or reinvent the wheel when you move into that handover phase and, I should say, operations and maintenance phase. So if we have everybody playing in our sandbox in our project, we own the data, and there's a lot of value in that because you get to see the history, you get to see all the changes over the life cycle, you get to see where that accountability lands. If you have questions about things, what happened about X, Y, or Z at what phase, you can always go back and interrogate that information when you own the data. And we saw that slide at the beginning, 64 or whatever, I believe 64 or 66%, and I think that's low. How much data is lost, how much information is lost over the life cycle of a project through obviously schematic and just very early stages, through design phase, into CDs, out the door to 100% IFCs, and then to the contractors, the construction team, and then they have to go and collect all of that information and give it back to you. Why not have all of that stored in your environment so that of course, we're going to hand over the correct permissions. We're going to make sure that our project team members are comfortable working in our environment. But ultimately, this can be a standard for us to ensure that that handover is best case for us because we are the owners. A couple more things. Where are we headed? And this is just, and I'll kind of recap in a moment about a few of the things that we talked about. But this is looking forward and kind of saying, where is this going? Now, is this today? Is this out there in fully deployed today and people are using it? It absolutely is. And it just depends on where you are in the industry and what are your capabilities. Obviously, we have some hindrance due to some regulations and so on, but these things are out there today and they can be leveraged. And I'm focusing on or talking about digital twin, essentially digital twin, which is if you've been in the industry for some time, you were dealing with, the term BIM was new to us up, say, 15, 20 years ago, whatever the case may be. We were and as we have digitally transformed over time, we're in a stage now where for the last few years, a quote unquote buzzword has been this digital twin, and that's where we're headed. And if you can imagine that collaborative data set, the digital, the BIM models, the VDC models, the maintenance and the operations and maintenance and facilities information that you can create in that modeled environment, that digital environment being utilized in facilities and maintenance. Imagine that is the end goal of all of this work that we're creating. It's not just to go backwards, go back to 2D, go back to 2D plans that are stored on a hard drive. Instead, we want to head towards digital twin. Some of the issues that we deal with are around those concepts. The energy is wasted due to poor design and operations. So if we have a live data set that is our digital twin, again, think of if you're not familiar with the term, by all means go and take a look. Autodesk has some really great collateral out there on the web talking about digital twin and their Tandem platform. But when that information that we build, that data set, goes unutilized and it again turns into 2D paper that we roll up, you're not giving access to your operators, the daily folks with their boots on the ground, and think of it as you will, but you've wasted that information. It's just it's not being leveraged. And that leads us to those inefficient operations. What are some of the concerns over the next few years? Of course, thinking about being with the concepts of LEED and trying to be more sustainable over the next few years, if we can be more efficient in our operations and design better buildings and operate them more efficiently, because we have data that is allowing us to be more actionable and we're reducing the level of waste in construction, we're going to be more sustainable. And that's a huge goal for us, certainly in the government world, but just generally as humans, we need to work towards those goals. And some of the capabilities that these types of platforms afford us can drive us in that direction. And again, that digital twin, quite a bit and a little bit of information about digital twins, but Autodesk has the Tandem platform. And that digital twin, I find this to be a fairly solid explanation of it. It allows us, or it did what Google Maps did for our daily lives and navigation. Autodesk Tandem can do for operations. And you can see some of this is a huge amount of information that we can talk about later. But ultimately, just to understand that we can talk about later that we have webinars on this, so by all means go and check those out on our resources page. But we're talking about, again, collecting all that information through the life cycle and then really leveraging it downstream in the digital twin, in the Tandem environment. It lets us be more prescriptive and proactive in the daily utility of a building. And there's statistics on it. I didn't have that in the slide, but buildings, the cost of a building, 80% of it is in facilities management and in the management and the operations phase of that building. So if we can enhance the operations phase and make it, we can have this digital twin as a more actionable data set and tool for our facilities folks to make better decisions about the building as it ages, we're going to be miles ahead. And this digital twin concept and the tools are only going to expand over time. Couple more things here, the scalability and compliance. As I spoke of earlier, scalability, that's the benefit of these tools. We can be distributed. We can own the project, and then we can, again, bring in all of our project team members, and they can be wherever they are. We are working in our office or at home. They are at home or their office or wherever that may be, in North America, and we can all be working in that same environment. So the scalability and distributed nature of this as a cloud platform is really second to none. Compliance. There's obviously quite a bit of I would assume questions about and information that people are seeking about this FedRAMP, about the FedRAMP moderate certification, and where are we at? I am by no means steeped in this information. We can, and if you would like, we can get somebody to reach out. You can reach out to your account executive, but we can talk about that current status, which I'll note here, but also where are we headed, and just to help you understand that right now, what I've shown you up to now has been kind of the entire picture, but now we can kind of narrow in on what are some of the tools that should be available to you, sooner than later. Don't want to put my foot in my mouth. So the authorization process, that's what Autodesk has been in with the federal government in the FedRAMP process to be able to get this platform approved by the federal government. It is in a moderate current status, and it's in process, and over time, obviously, seeking the the ultimate approval. But as I noted there, or highlighted in green in the box, there is 2 platforms out of the entire umbrella that we spoke of. The Autodesk Docs for government is what it's going to be called, and then BIM Collaborate Pro for government. So the tools that we talked about, the design collaboration, the storage, of course, storage being perhaps really the most one of the most important pieces. It's the crux of our work. Now that we get everything into the cloud, stored and actionable and distributed in docs, we can really leverage the other tools and processes and so on in the rest of our project lifecycle. So it's great. They're on the move, and they're working towards having the FedRAMP approval. Can't speak to timelines, of course, but again, reach out and ask questions about it. And I will pause, and I think we're good. So I want to thank everyone for showing up today. By all means, if you have questions, I talk all day long, every day with clients about this, and I really enjoy these conversations. So if you would please, by all means, reach out to your account executive.